Hello and welcome to the Industry Podcast. My name is Corey. I'm joined by my co-host Blake. And the Industry Podcast is your source for industry interviews, insights, and inside stories. How are you doing today, Blake?
I'm doing fabulous, thank you.
Awesome. And how was your week?
It was pretty good. Tonight, I actually just, earlier today, I went to a water park called Schlitterbahn.
Wait, say that again? Schlitterbahn?
Yep. It's a water park in New Braunfels.
New Braunfels. Okay. And what did you do there? What did you get to do? What was the best ride there?
On the water coaster.
Okay. What and was that like? I like the ones that go up and then come down and splash in the water. Was it like that?
It was kind of like a roller coaster, but on water.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know you love the roller coasters.
Yep,
so you're just
totally
happy to get one. All right. And so did you do any filming this week? Did you do anything in the film industry?
A couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
we acted in that French film, Infidelity, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're just coming off the Infidel short film. They used our location to shoot, and so we're just coming off of that episodically. We took a week off for July 4th. And what'd you do for July 4th?
I hung out with my parents, and we hung out at my sister's house and cooked hot dogs and hamburgers and steak. And
Nice.
We took a ride in my brother-in-law's new really cool Tesla.
Oh wow! He's got a Tesla.
Yeah, and it actually has self-drive mode.
Oh right, yeah, I've seen it advertised.
Yeah, and the whole top is an automatic sunroof. You don't have to open it or anything.
That's pretty sweet.
And when it got dark, we watched some fireworks from my sister's house.
That sounds like a great 4th, man.
Yeah, it does.
I started taking photos again, doing photo shoots, and it started with bringing my camera to work and just taking pictures of the crew I work with. I work with like a restaurant companies as a server, and so it just kind of started back up again with just bringing my camera along and taking group pictures of crew. And one of them happened to be like wanting to jumpstart his acting career again. Shout out Jeffrey Gonzalez, and he came over and I took some headshots for him, and it just like started this like. It just opened this door again of creativity and photography and just like this whole new part of photography. Obviously photography isn't new to me, but this whole creative aspect of photography and where I can push it to. So like that was my last week over 4th. July 4th I didn't really do too terribly much. I just kind of slept a lot. Oh, actually, you know what? On July 4th, I was actually working and I was giving away snow cones to little kids.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was fun. Pina colada or watermelon. That's what I was saying like about 1 billion times that day. It was a great time though. I got to see all these little kids just living their lives like little like stars and black holes and things like that Louis C.K. bit where they're just talking about how these kids are just like bouncing into each other and just like doing completely random things. It's a lot of fun. So that was my July 4th. I saw fireworks there and took a couple of shots and then this last Friday, actually Thursday, July 8th, was a really big planned concert event through Paradox Productions. It was a headliner, Wi-Fi's funeral, and a bunch of different artists in, I think either from Austin or just from around the country that flew in to play this concert.
Nice.
And so I was there doing event photography for that. So just awesome stuff. But mainly moved from filmmaking and grip work and things like that to back to photography, back to where like I'm just kind of coming back to my center creatively of what I like to do.
Nice.
But yeah. Speaking of photos, we have a guest today that I actually took photos of. Carlo Barbieri III. How'd I do on that?
Fantastic. You know what? Everyone always bitches my last name. They always say Barbie. And I'm like, no, it's not Barbie. And everyone always says Carlos. And I'm like, you can drop the S. But it's okay. I'm a Carlos. You can call me Carla, Carl, whatever. Right. It doesn't matter.
And you're the trilogy.
I'm everything. I am the one man everything. I like to put myself sometimes, but we had a little photo shoot, and that was fun. I haven't done that in a while, and so it's good to get some headshots. And so thank you very much.
Future Corey, throw up some pictures of what I did.
And
Carlo has a very very mobster-like look. So in editing, I definitely got that vibe, and just kind of rolled with it.
I am Italian. My father's side is Italian. I actually have a lot of famous Italians in my life, or at least on my dad's side.
Oh, in your bloodline?
In my bloodline.
Awesome.
And a couple of them are actually very famous for music and for film, actually.
Oh, wow.
And then on my mom's side is all Irish. So I got the Italian, I got the Irish. So I don't know what you want to call me, but I'm a mix between both. I actually have a little French, because French is also on my mom's side too. So
sure.
I have kind of all three. But Italian, that's usually where I fall into most of the time. But
that's awesome, man.
But yeah,
so you actually do have like slight mobster ties in a way.
Well,
you can at least dress like you do, and nobody will say anything against it.
I can say I can dress up pretty nice and sleek if I so choose to.
Yeah, man.
But the two famous people that I have on my father's side is a guy named Carlo Barbieri. Carlo Barbieri was a fusion jazz artist, and he actually worked with Santana for a very, very long time. And eventually, when he broke up with Santana, he started doing his own thing. But then, eventually, he started doing soundtracks.
Oh wow!
And the soundtrack that he did was for. Oh God! Now I'm gonna have to look this up now. Now that I'm thinking about it,
Carlo with the vast memory, the vast collection of films, TV, games, all physical media.
Yeah,
Carlo is a archivist of sorts.
Yeah, and it's funny that now that you're saying this, now I'm actually having a blank. It'll come back to me.
Don't worry.
But ultimately, the second. As I'm thinking of the soundtrack in my head, the second person is a guy named John Cazale. And John Cazale is a famous movie actor.
Okay.
I don't know where he branches off from my father's side, but he's tied in there somewhere.
Okay.
But he passed away in the 70s, and he was married to Meryl Streep. It was her first husband. And he worked on The Godfather, Godfather 2, Dog Day Afternoon, The Deer Hunter, and The Conversationist. And he actually was the one that trained Al Pacino to become the actor that he is.
So you're related to the filmic kind of interpretation of Real Mobsters.
Yeah.
I love that.
I guess
then
so.
You get to really sell like the fun parts of being a mobster. You know, hey, Frank, this one's for you.
Yeah, Frank, hey. Look at this, Frank. Yes, but it's funny because I'm originally from Massachusetts, and most people say, "Hey, you're from Boston." I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm actually from Central Mass, which is." Central Mass is Worcester County area, and then once you get out of Worcester County, then you go into like the Berkshires, which is the last part of Western Mass, and that's like the dead zone, and no one ever goes out there. So like Worcester County, yeah, like there's a lot of
the dead zone.
It's the dead zone.
I feel like horror movie makers will
it is definitely
immortalize that.
And I always tell everybody the best places to film in Massachusetts is Western Mass because there are so many great little towns. No one's gonna bother you. You can pull out permits just like that, and
they're excited to have you there.
Yeah, Massachusetts is a great place to film.
Cool.
But Boston is a little. Boston, if you haven't been to Boston, or if you have, you're gonna know that driving in and around Boston is extremely hard because just the streets. It's pretty much we always have this running gag where it's like, oh, Boston was created by like a 10-year-old or a 5-year-old just drawing all the streets on a piece of paper and went, here, develop this, and that's what happened. So when you're driving in and out of Boston, it becomes pretty confusing, just the way that the streets are. But because Boston is, let's face it, it is like the original like colony,
13 colonies.
Yeah, for our lovely country, and so it's designed pretty well, but not always thoughtfully thought out. I'll put it that way. But
in film, you can always make a car chase look really fast and daring.
100%.
Anywhere.
Oh yeah. Shooting in Boston when you're doing car scenes and stuff are just there's nothing like it. Like that in New York. I mean, New York is all straight lines.
Could
anyway.
you sell Boston as New York in a way? Are the buildings close together like that?
Unfortunately, no. You cannot. Boston has its own unique look.
Okay.
New York downtown. I mean, there's tons of skyscrapers everywhere. I mean, once you see one, you go, oh, that's New York.
Yeah.
And once you see Boston, there's certain buildings, skyscrapers in Boston that have the Boston look. That are not from any other place.
Gotcha.
And so when you look at Boston, or if you see like, if they're doing an aerial shot over Fenway, you're gonna know what Fenway is gonna look like. And whatnot. And so. Boston's very, the look is there. If you know the area, or if you know kind of some, movies from Mass, then you're gonna pick it up real fast, because it has that feeling, it has that tone, And of course, once you hear the Boston accent, pocket car, and have it yard, and
Did you start with the Boston? Did you have an accent like that?
No, I see. I'm from Western Mass, so a lot of people say I don't have that Massachusetts,
I'd say so.
Speech, that tone, because I'm not from the Back Bay. I'm not from Boston itself. And when you're in Boston, if you're like in, I don't know, like Back Bay, or if you're in like, I don't know, like that's Fall River's further, like Lexington. If you're in Cambridge, or like Watertown, they all have their own different
I've
things.
never been to any of these, so this is just
they're little towns,
farts in the wind.
I would like to say little sections of Boston make up what it is, pretty much.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So,
gotcha.
And every single place has its own like voice, has its own
Interesting.
little tone, and you can once you go there, you
can pick up on it a little bit. Okay.
But
I'm a big fan of comedy and comedians.
Oh God, Boston.
And a ridiculous amount of famous comedians, are from Boston.
They are 100%.
Kevin Hart, Louis C.K.
Yep.
Bill Burr.
Yep. Bo Birmingham is from Massachusetts.
Bo Burnham?
Bo Burnham, yeah, he's from Mass.
See, that's what I'm saying, man. Like I think everybody who's like popular and on Comedy Central and like huge, and of course got a podcast now too, are from Boston clubs.
Boston. Yeah, there's been a lot of actors and just a lot of famous.
So what is it? What do they put in the water in Boston that makes everybody awesome?
I think it's just the polluted water, man. I think it's all the shit that we drink.
Turns out that whatever they're putting in there,
it's bad for our health, but it makes us great.
Yeah, it turns out everything, the water is infused with Earl Grey, and it's just
probably. Actually, you know what? It's gonna be the drinking, 100%.
Oh yeah,
all the Irish pubs, all the drinking, and probably
I love the look of Irish pub. When you see an Irish pub, in a row of random bars, kind of like 6th Street. The one that has an Irish theme is just significantly different.
Yep.
I love that. They go with like a European look, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Boston, that would be every bar.
It's not every bar. Actually, unfortunately, Boston is slowly losing its heritage over the years, just like any other place around, the United States. But Boston, like the Back Bay used to be really prominent with Irish pubs, and and they're just slowly disappearing. But the ones that are still around, and of course, COVID did a lot of damage to a lot of businesses back home, just like everywhere else. But for the ones that have survived, some of the Irish pubs are still going pretty strong, and like Massachusetts Ave, if you're going down there, there used to be an Irish pub next to the Phoenix Landing. It's no longer there anymore, but the Phoenix Landing has been a staple for electronic music for a very long time.
Okay.
And then right down the street from that is the Indian place, which is the Middle East. In the Middle East, that place does a lot of venues, and they're Mediterranean type restaurant.
Yeah.
And then they have a Korean restaurant right next to that, which has gone through different names. And then they had another Irish pub. And so that stretch of Mass Ave, when you go down there, you'd always hit every single bar right off the street, and you would get different music for every single club when you go down there. So you would go from the Irish pub.
So it really is like a 6th Street,
Yeah. So there is, but it's not like 6th Street down here, and they don't. There's not long stretches, unfortunately. It's just little patches.
Yeah, little patches. Okay.
But that's Boston, and coming down here to Austin has been weird. I wouldn't say culture shock, because, but
what is your take on Austin?
It's hot. It's very hot, but however, the humidity here versus Boston is a lot different. And though it's really really hot up there,
because Massachusetts, Boston, that's right on the Atlantic, right?
It's right on the Atlantic, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the heat, humidity
I always
up
think
there
about
has a
it
different
being kind of like more
feel.
inland, but it's not. It's right there.
It's right there, yeah.
Yeah.
And it can get hot, but down here it's the heat is what gets you. Up there, the humidity, definitely you can feel it, but it's been a different feel for both. It's weird, but I'm getting to it. I'm getting used to it a little bit.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
Austin's not quite as like seafood inspired.
Oh God, no. Seafood, Massachusetts.
I feel like
the East Coast is all seafood.
Like being like a shit talking crab fisherman.
Oh yeah, we have tons of those. tons of them.
We had a shit talking biker here who loved fish.
Okay.
So
okay.
Almost the same thing. Shout out Maurice Amar. I love that.
We do have some asshole bikers, but we're called massholes for a reason, right? I mean,
okay. Yeah.
We don't get that term for nothing, and we usually push people off the street. I mean, we drive violently, recklessly, and I mean, we want to get to point A to point B, and so we won't
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, quickly. And down here, it's been very interesting because some of the people are very. They drive very slow. And it's not that bad.
I would say it's not that bad. It's not as sleepy. Like this town is growing really fast. So like I moved down here like a year ago, and like just as far as like driving went, everybody's just slow, sleepy, going from one place to another, like to college town vibes. But now it's like there's such an influx of people moving here. There's at least one crazy ass driver every time I go out on the highway.
Oh, 100%.
There's always one guy that stands out, no matter what kind of car he's driving. Could be like a BMW or a fucking Aston Martin. It doesn't matter. It's just like they are weaving in between traffic, like almost crashing every time they do it.
Yep.
And it's like nuts.
Yep.
And I feel like when a city gets big enough, everybody drives like that.
Oh, everybody. Well, in Boston, you can't really drive recklessly because of the roads, just because they are.
Kind of prevents you.
But we just don't give a fuck. I mean, we'll go up over on the pavement and we'll go over the road. I mean, we'll drive over cars if we need to. I mean, we do it all. But anyway, I'll digress.
So you're the one crazy driver that I see out there.
I'm pretty lighthearted when it comes to driving. I over the years of doing reckless driving, especially because when I started off getting into the film world, I started off doing audio engineering. And then from audio engineering, I kind of did some stunts. And when I say stunts, I rolled cars and I did some explosions, jumped out some windows.
Dude, let's talk about that. Let's go into filmmaking and your film career.
Yeah.
So like you're in professional film.
I am.
A couple weeks ago we had Savannah, right? Was her name Savannah, the gal who made Austin Movie Makers?
Yeah, and it was Savannah Power.
Savannah Power. We had Savannah Power on here who moved down and just she's a rock star. She moved down. She created her own group company called Austin Movie Makers and just started grabbing people with like extreme efficiency who wanted to make films. And it was more of like a film hobbyist kind of thing, but she was still extremely productive. They put out one film every month. It was super impressive to have her on the podcast. Shout out to her. But yeah, she was definitely in the category of hobbyist. She didn't want to really pay anybody, and that was just on the the philosophy of we're just making films for the sake of.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yourself, and I would say myself, it also is in the category of and Blake too, entirely professional films. You show up, contract signed, and you're doing awesome shit on set.
And
so tell me about that, stunts and whatnot.
Okay, so long story short, when I started getting in the film world, I actually...
Yeah, what was your first film? 100 years ago?
Okay. Now this is going to be a hard one because I've worked on so many.
Okay.
So I guess the way that I'll talk. So I'm not just a filmmaker. I'm also a film collector, and they both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so around 2003, I started getting into doing sound engineering. Because ultimately it was because of my father. My father, prior to, he had a massive game collection. My father had over 15,000 games in 2001.
Wow, that's cool.
And he worked for Nintendo, Sega, and PlayStation. So he worked
shit.
So
lucky guy.
Yeah, so he worked for Nintendo from, if I remember correctly, from 1984 to I think 1993 or 94, and then he switched over from that to Sega from 94 to I think 96, and then from 96 to 98 was PlayStation. And he didn't develop any video games, but what he did was he was in the distribution world. So he was able to, of course, do distribution for all these games.
Yeah.
And he just kind of fell into working for all these game companies because at the time he just needed the money. And I think when around
just jumped right into it. That's how you start careers.
And
you just need the money.
And so the thing about him is that it wasn't just all about doing all these games. Ultimately, his big passion was doing development and architecture and design because he's ambidextrous, so he can actually draw with both hands.
Okay.
And so he started acquiring all this stuff, and my father was never prominently in my life. I was taken away from him when I was really, really young by my mom.
Okay.
And eventually things happened, and around, I guess, probably 1998, I was like, hey, I'm getting a little older now. I really want to get to know the man himself. So I finally got into his life. Come to find out, he had this massive video game collection.
Yeah. Turns out your dad works at Nintendo.
Turns out that's what he was doing. And I was like, God damn. And so...
Well, what have I been missing?
I was like, well, what am I missing? And prominently, like before that, I never had video games and never had film in my life.
Sure.
And what happened was...
your mom wasn't into film?
My mom was into classical music and jazz.
Okay.
And so with that set in mind, I was like, I really love sound. And then when I got into doing games for my father, that's when all like 8-bit and 16-bit and all this other stuff started coming.
Sure,
and I was
tech.
like, I want to now get into doing sound engineering. This is what I really want to do. And that's kind of where it started from. And so I started doing this. And then around in 2001, horrible thing happened. My father lost his entire game collection. And this is actually based on a true story. This is all true. What happened was, at the time, he had a friend who went down to Mexico, came back with the drug cartel, stole my father's games to build meth labs.
I bet he was mad.
Oh, my father was furious. Yeah. And eventually things happened. He was found out, and it's a whole other story for itself. I mean, the whole podcast, like if we do another one, I mean, it's an epic story. But anyway, which kind of leads into like coming up into like 2003, where my father, some things happened, and then he knew that I was going to start going into the broadcasting world because that's where I was starting off from.
Sure.
And he goes, He just started after series events. He then turned around and was like, I'm gonna build something for you because I lost a game collection which I wanted to give you personally. That was my thing to you.
Yeah.
And he, after all the birthdays that he missed, he decided on calling up all these people that he worked for all around the world. And so he called people from Japan, from Australia, Germany, UK, you know, even here in the States, and all these VHS bootleg laser discs, like, you know, 16 millimeter print film started coming in, posters, whole variety of different things started popping up. And I didn't realize at the time that it was all the contacts that he made over the course of his lifetime.
Wow.
And so he built my first film collection.
Oh, excuse me a sec. Hold that thought.
Okay.
He's going to hit record on the tripod there. Working?
Good.
Okay.
All right. Ready to rock and roll.
So, anyway, yeah, so he builds my film collection. I start making my own game collection. And I start doing audio engineering. So I go from that. I was going to Mount Wachusett. I started going to Mount Wachusett Community College, which is a small community college, and they had a small little broadcasting department at the time.
Cool.
And I just started doing short films. So one of the first short films that I've made was actually, it wasn't really a short film. It was actually a music video.
Sure.
And I used Porcupine Tree. One of the Porcupine Tree songs, which is a progressive band. They come out from England. A guy named Steve Wilson.
Is that a instrumental band?
It's a prog band, so they're a progressive band.
Cool.
And Steve Wilson, I've always loved. He reminds me of from like Nine Inch Nails with what's his name, Trent Reznor.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I mean, I think they're both musical geniuses in their own right.
Definitely.
But anyway, so I was doing this music video with my that girlfriend that I had at the time. Eventually we broke up, but I started doing that. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of want to get into the film world. I want to start doing, and that's kind of when I started really focusing on working on very different things.
Yeah, because you could bring your audio engineering experience to film.
I did, and so I started to. And one of the first projects that I ever worked on, and between, I would say, 2005 all the way to like 2014 is probably when all the crazy stuff I have ever experienced happened during that time. After 2014, everything kind of wasn't so crazy.
It's just
at least
a blur of nuts.
Just blur of just a whole bunch of stuff. But during that time, really made me who I became.
Okay.
And so, like, one of the first things that I ever worked on was, so it was a music video, and we were shooting down in Worcester. And at the time, we were trying to build out this jib. We were actually in the studio, and so we're building out this jib.
What was the movie? Do you remember?
And it was a music video.
Okay.
And I don't remember really what was going on, but what happened was, and this is crazy, but
so something happened to a jib?
It happened to a jib to an actor. And so we're building out this thing. We're rigging out everything. I'm doing all the sound stuff, sound checks, and all this other stuff.
Okay.
And everything was going good. And what happens is that the director is talking to this actor, and the director can see the jib behind him. And this guy on the jib swings the jib over with the camera, and he slams it right into the back of the head of the actor.
Jeez.
Splits the guy's head clean open, pretty much.
Fuck.
Right? And the guy on the jib gets off and runs out of the studio. Just takes off.
Just runs. I think I wouldn't do that, but I would think it first.
And so this guy runs out of the room, out of the building, and come to find out, an hour later, the real jib operator shows up. Right? This guy shows up, and he comes in. The cops are there, and the director's yelling at him, and everything's going on. The guy's like, I don't know what's going on. I texted the producer saying that, hey, I was going to be late, and that I only wanted it to be set up. I would ring everything out. And everyone was starting to question who the guy
Who the hell was that?
that was on the jib that was swinging.
That's crazy.
So what happened was, come to find out,
so it wasn't a secure building.
It wasn't a secured building, and what happened was the actor actually had, like, I guess he pissed off somebody, or he did something to somebody like a couple days prior to.
Oh.
And that person that was very upset with this guy came in on the film set, dressed it up with blacks and everything, looked like he was part of the crew, snuck on and took the jib.
This happened in Boston?
And this happened down in Worcester, and actually went after the actor, but by doing so, he took the jib and he threw the camera into the guy's head so he could get back at him.
Oh my gosh.
That's
that would be
crazy
painful.
revenge story.
That's one of the first things I ever got to work on, and I will always remember this. And so after that,
so that was your first impression.
That was my first impression of working on.
It sounds like it was like a music video performance, right? Because you were doing sound checks.
I was doing sound checks.
So
Yeah,
it was a band going to perform. You would film with jibs and get a good
everything,
view of it.
And then that happens, and so that was like the biggest thing, and that happened.
Did he have to go to the hospital?
He went to the hospital. Yeah, he split the guy's head right open. He was bleeding. I mean, and when he hit him, he knocked him out, and he was on the ground.
Shit.
He literally was like, and we were like, oh my god! And that guy took off, and then eventually the other guy showed up, and we were like,
did they ever catch him?
I don't know if they caught him. I have no idea. But
oh shit!
But so that happened. So if I remember correctly, that happened at least by the end of 2004, and then coming into 2005. I started working on more and more different things.
Sure.
I wasn't working on a lot of narrative stuff at the time.
Okay.
I was working on more
one-off short films,
yeah,
things
little
like
short
that.
films and more of like mainly commercials. That's what I was starting off on.
Okay.
And then eventually more and more things started leading up, and then I started working on a lot of different features. And then one feature I was working on, this was like it was at the end of 2005 when the tank happens. And so when I say tank,
you talked about this, but I don't know the full story.
Okay, so this is true. This was up in Vermont, 2005. It was a World War II film, and what they were trying to do is they were trying to recreate some sort of World War II battle, and they wanted to use a forest in Vermont, and so. A friend calls me up one day and says, hey, man, can you go up to Vermont for like a week? And like, I need to get the fuck off this film set. Can you please fill in for me? Like, I'm begging you. Like, you're going to go on. You're going to work with the grip team. You're going to learn some grip stuff. Just replace me. I was like, okay. And he's like, this is the death march from hell. I need you to replace me. And I said, oh, okay, cool, I will. So I did. I went up to Vermont.
What a guy. What a friend.
And
man.
I went up from Vermont.
He was warning you that it was going to be horrible.
Oh, it was a fucking shit show. It was bad. So I show up, and I meet the grip team. All these gentlemen, they're all older than me. I'm like the youngest one on the whole film set, pretty much at this point. And I was like, okay. And I even told them, I was like, hey guys, look, I'm an audio guy. My friend wants to have me come down here to, do some grip work, and I'm green. I really don't know much really what's going on,
sure.
but I would like to be thrown into the fire. Don't treat me like don't treat me like an idiot, okay?
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, cool. We like this. You're going to be rigging some lights here in this tree, that tree, and we're going to be showing, there's going to be some explosives going on, and so they've been shooting this entire I guess it's been several months that they've been shooting like a couple scenes in Vermont. And from what I could tell was at this point, the whole crew was just run down, raggedy. They look like death pretty much,
Because of multiple 12-hour days. If it's not
probably more.
It doesn't sound like a professional film set, but a film set like that where you're going multiple weeks, if you're not efficient, you're going to be doing 12 hours plus. Yeah. Which is nuts.
Yeah. And so these guys you could tell they were at this point, they were like, oh, we just get it. So anyway, that's why I replaced my friend at the time. And so, anyway, long story short, we're at coming close to the weekend, and the crew that I'm with keep saying, I kept hearing that this tank was going to be on site. There were going to be multiple tanks. They were going to be, driving through the woods with this tank. They actually cleared out a piece of the section of the land a little bit so that, so they can drive in and whatnot. And tanks could roll through, which was going to be really cool. But they never showed up. They were just not showing up. And people were talking about it and whatnot. And so anyway,
they were probably supposed to be there at a specific time.
They probably were, yeah. And they just didn't show up. So there was 5 of us. No, actually, so there was, 5 of us. It was 4 grip guys and then it was me. And they were like, you know what? We're not having crafty. We're going to go out for lunch. Let's get in a truck and let's get the fuck off set. And I said, okay, cool. So I drive them down to this little town, and I forget where we were at the very top end of Vermont, and I can never remember the town for the life of me. I've always been there once. I would have to look it up.
A small town, USA.
Little small town. So anyway, we get there. We're all shooting the shit, and they all like me, and they're like, hey, talking all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I go, listen. What's up with this tank? And they all look at me and they all start laughing at me, and they go, man, that thing's not going to show up. They've been saying this for months now. It's not going to show up. I go, okay. Well, I'm like, I bet you $1 billion when we get back. And I should have never said anything. I should have just kept my mouth shut. And I said, I bet you $1 billion we'll get back and we'll see the tank. Well, we go up the mountain. And as we're coming up the mountain, we have to bang a right down this long street which would then bring us to the parking area where Video Village was set up.
Okay.
And we would park all our cars there and everything.
Okay.
And it was a long road. And so we're driving, we get in and we're in this truck, and there's 5 of us. We get down, we're driving down, and all of a sudden, way off in the distance, there's the fucking tank, and it's coming at us. And I go, guys, there's a tank. And it's not stopping. It is coming right at us.
Oh, no.
And what happens is I had to drive out of the way. So I rolled the truck. I drove off the road, rolled the truck, went into the woods, and the tank blew by us with all the police going after it. So we get out. Wait
a second.
Yeah, a police car shows up.
So this tank that was supposed to be on set is in a car chase.
It's in a car chase with the police. So one of the police officers stopped. Make sure that we're okay, and we're all fine. None of us were injured. We were okay, surprisingly, because we rolled this fucking truck. I mean, we destroyed it. And so he kept driving down, and then we heard a massive fucking crash. And what happened was the tank drove off the mountain. It kept going and it didn't stop, and it went off the fucking mountain.
So it went off the, you're up in the Virginia Appalachian Mountains,
and there was nothing
on some
left.
Windy road.
Nothing left of it. It went right off the road, right off the mountain that we were on.
Did they forget to turn on the parking brake?
I don't know if there was anyone driving it. I don't know how or who or what was going on, but when we got, all of us had to walk back to the parking area, and when we got there was I remember counting 14 cars. They were completely destroyed. And so what happened was, the tank rolled off the truck, and I don't know if the gear stuck or how it got turned on, or if there was somebody actually in it or got into it. Pretty much the tank was like a runaway tank in a lot of ways. It literally drove off the back of this, the
Folks,
semi.
if there's one thing that could bring your set to a screeching halt, it's a runaway tank.
Is a tank.
How are we doing on time? We're doing okay? Yeah, we're doing okay.
Yeah, so anyway, that happened. And from that point on, I've had multiple things happen. I've actually been shot at multiple times on film sets. I've almost been blown up. I've done some stunts. I've rolled cars. But my main thing is that
a runaway tank. And you had to dodge it, almost kill yourself.
Dodge a tank. I never thought I would ever do that.
You hear sirens going off on the cop cars. You hear them screech to a halt, and then you hear, screeching metal.
No, I just heard, it went through the guardrail, and then it just went off.
The sound of metal bending the way it's not supposed to, and loud metal noises, and then boom. Did it explode?
I don't remember if there was a massive, loud bang. I don't remember if it actually exploded.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing any smoke, but by that time, I mean, we were a good distance away from it.
And you were going to start walking again because all of your cars are destroyed.
Oh yeah. So what was cool was the guy that when I went up to Vermont, when my friend came down, he had the grip that I was. So the grip that came down with my friend, I went back with, and his car was completely fine, wasn't destroyed. And so me and him took off. We never got, they shut down the production. I never got called back. I don't know what happened with the production or not, but I'm thinking they probably had a bad day.
It's a good fucking nightmare.
That's a good nightmare. And so I don't know anything that happened with the film. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about like what actually transpired after that.
If you filmed that part, you would have been a millionaire now.
Oh, probably. Probably. And I got to tell you, it was crazy. And I keep thinking to myself, is like, I said it. I was like, I bet you $1 billion when we get back, we're going to see it. And it happened. And I was like, I should have just kept my mouth shut. Should have never said anything. And it probably would have never happened. But
Don't blame yourself. Sounds like you showed up on a miserable set. It sounds like everybody was downtrodden already.
Bad. It was just.
It sounds like they were just killing time until this tank shows up.
Yeah, we were.
And then the tank showed up, and they didn't want the tank to show up after all.
No, that thing was like, screw this, I'm out, and it drove itself. Someone either drove it or it drove itself. But man, I gotta tell you, it was crazy. But
was there a news story?
I think there was a news story about it.
Okay.
I've tried to do some.
I've
tried to find like little things about it, but I just over the years, like, things just get lost. And like time itself.
You just said that there's a whole pile of things on top of that have gone crazy.
So for a couple of things I've worked on the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead.
Cool.
I was a PA on the first one, and then I was a grip for seasons 2 and 3.
Nice.
I've worked
nice
on
little pay bump.
That was pretty cool. I wasn't technically supposed to be a grip because I wasn't unionized, but they got me in, so I was like, woo-hoo.
Nice.
I could have actually gotten to the union by then, and I should have been in the union by now, but with just how my life has been and all the craziness and everything, I just haven't been able to
look into what you need to be a grip, because I could probably qualify as a grip.
Yeah,
by now.
I mean, well, so Massachusetts, every union is technically supposed to be the same, but they're not really the same.
They're all kind of different.
They're all different, and like Massachusetts has its own regulations for getting the local 481, which is the grip union.
Okay.
And then down here, I think it's 484. I could be wrong.
Okay.
You're gonna have to look that up, but
something like that. Yeah.
But they have their own other regulations and stuff. And down in Massachusetts, you need like you have to have a max amount of money and a lot of time. And down here, it's actually, I think it's like $800. $800 to get into the door, and I think you have to have a max, like a shorter max amount of time to be a grip.
Like time worked on a union
time worked
set.
And everything like that. And so every union in different places are different.
Sure.
And so, but anyway, I worked on The Walking Dead. I worked on Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. I was just working on Dexter. I didn't get to work the full thing for Dexter. There's a new season of Dexter coming out. I can't tell you much about it, but there's a new season. And it was filmed in Massachusetts. But soon enough,
these are big names. These are big names filming in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and Dexter was definitely I came in on the last week if they were shooting stuff out before they started shooting in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on that, and man, that was something. I feel bad for the crew that was actually working on it full time. It was just a death march. It was pretty bad. It was like seeing those guys from the World War II. I mean, you could just see them. They're all just like, oh my god. So when
I've seen that on TV. I was an extra for a short minute on a TV set, which is totally different because they go 90 days.
Oh, they go 90 days.
Instead of like 20, rock and roll, stay in a cool-ass hotel, eat free food, and then drive across the country for the next film.
Yep.
TV's not like that. TV is like so
like
much
that.
more institutionalized. It's so much more like working with the same people. And if you get sick of them on day, 20, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Nope, doesn't matter.
We had the safety guy on Walker. I was an extra on Walker. Like one of the set PAs had to like wrangle the extras and had like talk to us, and it was like, yeah, so there's like COVID officers on set and they could be bitchy. And he said that verbatim. I'm like, this guy has been on set for way too long. It's not magic anymore. Yep. It's not fun.
It's not fun. And the funny thing is that when you work on, even a TV show or feature, like film, I like the commodity of the or comrades, I guess you could say, of trying to like camaraderie. There we go. Trying to make everything bring something a little different each day. Yeah. After a while, you do get worn down, and after a while, you start to really like, if you're not getting any sleep, you're gonna really start losing your temper, and definitely I've seen some tempers.
You get a chip on your shoulder.
Oh yeah. So best example.
Yeah. And to say about that, it's like that's what professionalism is being just as efficient as you were on day one on day 60, and keeping all that bullshit offset. Even though you like live with people you hate for that duration of time. Yep. That's been it sucks.
So all right. So
good old NDAs.
Little something. So Black Mass, Whitey Bulger was filmed in Massachusetts with what's his name? Johnny Depp. He the director. So before I ever actually got onto the film set, I was doing a shit editing job for this guy, and I had to walk away. I was in Cambridge at the time, and I was like, "Oh my god,
so I got editing for somebody."
I was editing for somebody, and I didn't realize that they were filming Black Mass outside the building that I was actually editing at. I had no idea, and so I walked outside and I walked down the street because I really needed something to eat, and I just had to get away from editing this horrible thing that I was
it
doing.
A feature or a short film?
No, it was a lot of commercials. It was like a whole bunch of different commercials and stuff. And I was like, oh my god. So anyway, I leave. I walk down the street, about to go get some pizza, and I realized that the film I walked onto Black Mass. Didn't even realize I was on Black Mass. Well, I start talking to PAs, and PAs, we all start talking, and everything's kind of happening and whatnot. And so 2 things happened that night. Okay. First one was a drunk driver blew through the barricade, and the second one was the director lost his shit. The first one was we were all standing there.
I think the first one led to the second one.
Probably. But so the drunk driver blows through a barricade, blows the whole barricade open, almost gets right down to the film set, and this lonely little grip was walking by, didn't even realize that the car was coming down the street, and he turned around, and the car stopped, literally right at his knees. I mean, if it kept going, he would have either gotten run over or he would have just gone right on top of the car.
Yeah, flew right over.
So this guy stops right at this guy's legs, and the police and everybody runs over, and like this guy's like about to have a heart attack because he almost got hit, and so the drunk guy gets out and he's like, "Oh guys, I'm on a film set," like all drunk people do. Well, the police arrest this dude, and there's a passenger. The passenger is completely sober. Right?
Oh no!
And he gets out, he's fine, and they start questioning him. They're like, "Hey, why are you not driving?" He's like, "Yo, bro, I don't really care about my friend." And he's like, "I don't care." He's like, "I'm just here." And so they're like, "What the hell?" So the drunk guy, he's now trying to pick a fight with the cops. And he goes, "No, man, I'm trying to get to my little girl's birthday party." This is at 4:00 in the morning, okay? And so the cops go over, and he goes, "All the presents are in the back, of the trunk with the balloons." Well, the cops open up the trunk, the balloons come out of the trunk, and there's the birthday gifts for his little girl. Yeah. And what he was trying to do was he's trying to get to the apartment where they were filming at, to get to his little girl, because that's because for her birthday. But the thing was, it's 4 o'clock
the
in the morning.
story turned like adorable.
And very adorable. So anyway,
if he wasn't drunk, this would be amazing. This would be a heartthrob story or whatever.
So they arrest the guy. They're like, "You're not seeing your little girl, dude. You just blew through the gate."
You're going in the drunk tank.
And so they take him away, but the passenger grabs all the birthday gifts, and there's like this little side alley that goes down to nowhere. There's no doors. There's nothing to this little side alley. It's just just a crease in buildings. Just a crease in the building, and just a wall at the very back end. There's no doors. There's nothing, right? So the guy takes the birthday presents, walks over and goes, "Some shit just happens." Tells us, like, to me and some of the PAs, and walks down this alley and just disappears. He doesn't come back out of it. He just disappears. And we're all standing. We're like, where the hell did the guy go? And so later on, now it's coming on almost 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're trying to do martini shot. And so you can hear it over the intercom on the PA system, and they're like, "Code red, director's having a breakdown." We hear this guy screaming. We think it's the actors. Come to find it's the director. Director walks over into the middle of the road and starts slamming his face on the pavement and starts violently beating himself to death.
Oh my gosh.
And we're all standing there watching this entire thing.
He's under some stress.
And he gets up and he's like, "Fuck this." And he leaves. He leaves the DP to finish off directing the rest of the
and he
shots.
could probably do it.
And he could probably do it. And so they finally get through Martini. They start trying to pack up and everything. And then one of the crew members go, "Hey, we have a couple more days. Would you? We're now going to be shooting in the studio. Can you come on?" I said, "Fuck yeah, I am." So I get onto Black Mass. Like a week goes by. I get on the Black Mass. I'm a PA, and I'm at the studio. And they have 2 studios. They have a studio, but they have 2 already like built out sets. And I was told to get 15 coffees to set A. So I get to set A. I show up, bring in the coffees. There is no crew. No crew whatsoever. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, they must be in set B. Shit. So I'm standing there and I see Johnny Depp as Whitey Bulger, because he's all in makeup by this time.
I love Johnny Depp.
And he is walking and pacing back and forth. And I look over at him and he sees me. I already have all the coffees on site. And I'm like, oh, no. And so he goes, he looks over at me and goes, "Hey, what are you supposed to be doing here?" I'm like, "I'm bringing all the coffees to everybody." And I'm like, "I'm guessing they're all for you." And he goes, I didn't want the crew to be here. I wanted 15 minutes for myself, and no one told me. Nobody told me. And I was like, oh, fuck. So anyway, he goes, no, you can stay. So we start talking, and I asked him this question. I go, "How do you feel like you're being, like, as Whitey Bulger?" And he goes, "I'm only here for a paycheck." And I go, okay, that's fine. And I give him a coffee, and we start shooting the shit. Well, crew starts coming back on. The producer pulls me aside, and the first ADs pull me aside. They start ripping me a new one. Yeah. And of course, they're ripping me a new one. And Johnny Depp comes over to me and them and says, "This guy did his job. He's going to be my PA for the rest of the day. If you try to fucking fire this guy, you guys going." And so I was with Johnny Depp the entire rest of that day.
Still though.
Sweet.
And I was his PA.
That was a green fucking decision to do on set, bro.
And well, the thing is that when I showed up, they told me to bring the coffees onto the set.
Yeah, bring it right to set.
And I did.
Yeah, they fucked up.
And they fucked up. Yeah. And they were like, and they were blaming me. I'm like, "No, man." And then he was like, "No, he did his job. You guys fucked up because you never told him." So yeah. Anyway, that's a Johnny Depp story for you. That's one of many stories.
He talked to talent and somehow did not.
Actually, he came over to me. I didn't even talk to him.
His ass ripping got interrupted by the producers, by Johnny Depp, which is the only person who could interrupt that.
Yeah. He shut the first AD down, the producer, and he was like, "Fuck you guys. This guy did his job." And all the coffees were still hot for everybody. Yeah. And so I was like, "Here you go." And so I got to hang out with them.
They hadn't had their coffee.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
That was one of the coolest things I have ever like. I've had multiple other cool experiences, but that's just.
Does he
one
remember
of many
you?
things.
Does he write you letters?
He doesn't write me.
Does he like your posts on Facebook?
I don't know if he. I don't think he sees any of my stuff, but. But that thing, okay. So I've worked with him. I've worked with Leonard Nimoy. I've worked with. I got to work with Stan Lee for 2 years,
awesome.
as the BTS guy for him.
Photographer?
I was a photographer. Yeah. So I
That's
got to
awesome.
do that, and I did some video, and then I worked with I've worked with like William Shatner. Fucking hate William Shatner. I've worked with Ben Affleck. Fucking hate him too.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us how you really feel, man. Put it all out there.
Really hate. So William Shatner, I've worked with him twice. He's a dick. Those are long stories. But one day I will tell them they're epic and they're sad and they're William Shatner is just an asshole, guys. I fucking hate that guy. Anyway,
you heard it here. Probably not first, but one more.
But Ben Affleck. So I was that's
the new Batman. The internet loves Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Ben Affleck, the new Batman, whatever. But he's still a dick.
He must have did something to you, man.
He did. He really pissed me off. So I was working on this thing.
Hold that thought real quick. Blake, could you take care of the camera real quick? And we'll bring it right back. Affleck.
Okay, Ben Affleck, guys,
is
so
somebody that did something to you to the point where you give zero fucks about his career.
I don't like him at all.
You don't care.
He probably won't remember this, but I do. I sure do.
All right.
So I
Give
was
him the old Barbieri.
I
feel like that's a fighting move.
That is, fighting. Like, come on,
word.
come at me, bro.
Very Massachusetts name, I think.
So I was working on this film where I don't even remember if Ben Affleck was actually supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. It was this little indie film, and he was. We were at this studio, and I was told and I was doing grip work at the time. I was told to get to the van to pull some stuff, and we needed it right now. Mm-hmm. So I was running down. I was running. I was getting through the building, and I blew by this guy. At the time, I didn't even realize it was Ben Affleck when I blew by him. I didn't even know it was him.
You were focused on
something else.
And I was
focused on something else, and I ran by him, and I grabbed all my gear that I needed, and I come running back. I had all these lights, and I'm trucking through, and all of a sudden, this gentleman stands and just goes sideways and now blocks my path. And I'm standing there and I'm like, "Oh, excuse me, sir." And I look up and it's Ben Affleck, and he's looking at me. And as he's standing there looking at me, he's texting on his phone, and he goes, "You have to apologize to me." And I go, "Excuse me?"
Fuck?
I go, "What?" He goes, "You got to apologize."
It's a power struggle.
And I go, "What the fuck?" I'm like, who are you?" And I'm like, "What the hell?" And he goes, "You ran by me and you almost blew the phone out of my hand." And I go, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously, dude? Like, what the hell?" And I go, "No."
I love this story. Just for the note, I love this. Keep going.
I'm like, "No." And I told him to go fuck himself. I 100% told him to go screw himself. And I said, I almost blew the phone out of your hand by wind. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You have to apologize to me and my phone." And I go,
He said that?
"You said that." And I go,
"Yeah, I could see that. I could
go,
see a
"No,
lot of celebrities."
you can go screw yourself." And so I did. I left. And I had to walk around him. I had to backtrack. I went down another pathway to get to where I had to go.
Yeah.
I finally dropped off everything, and I was like, "Dude, why is Ben Affleck here?" And everyone was like, "Ben Affleck is here?" I'm like, "He's literally in the hallway," and me and him just had like a nice little fucking spiel. And so everybody kind of walked outside and all looked, and he was still standing around. And eventually, the gaffer comes up to me, the lead gaffer, and he goes, "Hey, did you run into Ben Affleck?" I'm like, "No, I did not run into him." And he goes, "Yeah, he was complaining that some arrogant asshole was out there telling him to go fuck himself." And I was like,
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll admit it. Yeah, it was me, but I never did anything. I ran by him. He told me that I almost blew his phone out of his hand because of the wind. Like, what the fuck?
That would turn the gaffer around.
Yeah,
probably not the producers.
And he was like, he's like that. He's like, I've actually worked with him before on a couple other films, and he's an asshole. He's like, yeah. He's like, you know what? Just blow it off. And I don't know why he's here. And I was like, I don't know why he's here either. But yeah, that was my big moment of ever meeting Ben Affleck.
Did you end up finding out why he was on some dinky
know.
film?
I have no idea. I think he was there because maybe he was dating somebody at the time, and maybe like the producer.
Maybe
I know
he was producing the
maybe
film.
He was producing something. I don't know what he was doing.
The executive producer of the film doesn't necessarily have to be there.
He was there, and the feature was called the 9 Iron. And I've never seen it. It's not on DVD. It's not anywhere streaming.
Yeah,
I don't know anything.
And you're a collector. You would probably check.
I've tried to find it, and it's not on IMDb. Or they could have just had it as like a pseudonym type deal, and then they probably just
changed the name on the fly.
But yeah, I don't know. And that was, if memory serves me correctly, that was 2010 when that happened. And so that was my Ben Affleck story with him. And then like when I got to work with Leonard Nimoy, that was crazy. That happened in 2008, and that's one of the greatest. Out of all the actors I've ever met, Leonard Nimoy it goes Leonard Nimoy, Stan Lee, and then George Takei. Those three guys, and Mark Hamill.
George Takei seems like a really cool dude.
Awesome. I loved him to death. I loved working with him.
He's a good time.
So awesome. Oh.
He's a good time to watch too.
But Leonard Nimoy. All right, so this is what happened with Leonard Nimoy. 2008, I get a call from a friend of mine. He was like, "Hey, listen, like Chronicle was just doing a story on Leonard Nimoy. The floodgates have opened. This producer wants to come in and do some more interviews with him down in the Cape. Would you be able to come down and be craft services?" And I was like,
nice. Yeah,
I'm going to be craft. I'll do anything to just to be in the presence of Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, in the film industry. Yeah.
So, and for the people that don't know who Leonard Nimoy is, he is Spock from Star Trek. He's been in a lot of films.
Oh, it's a bald dude.
Yeah, he was the guy that I can't do it. Mr. Spock.
Yeah.
I can't do it for the life of me. My father can do it on both hands. I'm like, God damn you. But Leonard Nimoy, he's famous for being in the.
He's famous. He's definitely a well-known.
The Bug Snatchers.
He's famous as a meme now.
He is, yeah. And he was
all
on
he had
Fringe
to do was face palm in a picture, and he could have copyrighted it.
He probably should have. He
didn't have to do like however many seasons of Star Trek and work himself to the bone. All he had to do is face palm.
Just do it
and copyright that and wait for the money to flow in. Because I see that meme everywhere.
It's beautiful. So.
Anyways, yeah. So
I'm standing there, and I was supposed to show up around 8 a.m. For Crafty. So I show up.
You got your snacks.
I have everything all ready. I'm in the van. I show up, get to his place, and his producer shows up. Comes out and goes, "Hey, man, your producer just fucked up the time, and so now we're pushing you back. You can't be here. We need you to come in around 12. You gotta go, just get the hell out of here." I was like,
okay.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, Leonard Nimoy is standing in his house, and he looks outside, and he goes, whoa. Let him come in. Just let him come in. I was like, yeah, let me come in, dude.
Yeah.
Just let me come in.
Leonard Nimoy said
I could come in. So anyway, I start bringing all the stuff into the house, start loading up everything in the kitchen, and I look over, and I notice that he's sitting there at the table looking out the window at the ocean, and he looked like a sad puppy. I mean, at this time he was very, very ill. No one really knew that he actually had cancer at this time, and he wasn't really saying anything about it. But you knew that he was just there was something wrong with him. So anyway, I walked over to him. His producer's outside dealing with something on the patio, and I go, "Hey man, Leonard, is it okay if I call you Leonard? I just want to let you know I'm all set up. I'm ready to go. I know that I have instructions about what you can eat. Have you had breakfast? Do you want me to make something for you or whatnot?"
That's nice.
And he looks over at me and goes, "Did you have breakfast?" So I said, "No, I have not. No." And he goes, "Well, I have not either. Let's see if you can cook me up something." So I did. So I started cooking Leonard Nimoy some food.
Cool.
We started making sandwiches. I started making sandwiches, and he comes over and he goes, "I'm going to make a sandwich with you." And so we and him start making sandwiches. And we go out onto the balcony, now overlooking the ocean, and it's probably around 9:30 in the morning at this time.
Okay.
Coming probably close to 10 a.m. And we start just, having breakfast. And he goes, "Would you like to walk the beach with me?" And I go,
"Oh, yeah."
"Yeah, dude, like, this is amazing." So we walk down to the beach, and I've had time stop in my life several times.
Did he like turn around and kiss you?
And man, if he did, I mean, it would have been the best. I mean, I don't care. I'd be like, gay moment. That's fine by me. But what happened was time stopped, and we started walking the beach together, and we just started talking about a variety of different things. And in his contract, from what I had to sign, was we couldn't talk about Star Trek. Couldn't talk about it. There was nothing we could do.
Gotcha.
He didn't want to talk about it. He wanted to talk about his art. He wanted to talk about Fringe. He wanted to talk about like other different things at the time or whatever.
I feel like he was probably put into a box pretty early.
Yeah, and he was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore or whatnot. And I was like, yeah, cool. But how I led to Star Trek, how he opened up to Star Trek with me, was how William Shatner plays into this, really. Because I met William Shatner before I met Leonard Nimoy. I started talking to him about the story about William Shatner, about how he treated me and the whole crew and everything on the set that we were on. Actually, I think it wasn't really even a set. It was technically, I think it was some sort of like what do you want to call it? There was a whole bunch of celebrities at the time, and they were doing like some sort of like
a variety show or something.
I wouldn't say a variety show. They were giving things away. They were doing like a whole bunch of like good deeds, I guess. But William Shatner didn't do a good deed. No, he was an asshole. So I start talking to him about what happened. About
hey Shatner, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, Shatner, fuck you. So we start opening up, and he starts talking about Star Trek and what William Shatner would do to the PAs on set. And And then I started talking to him about, all the prior films he was in. But what caught him off guard was two things. Was the Laserdisc commercial that he was in and Preservation of Science. And those two, right off the bat, caught him completely off guard. Because
nobody asked him.
I don't think a lot of people doesn't really ask him about those shows.
Okay.
And the only reason why he got caught off guard by the Laserdisc commercial that he was in, because, let's face it, who has laser discs, right? Who knows much about laser discs? And I was like, I have a laser disc with you on laser disc, not just on VHS, but actually on a fucking laser disc. And he goes,
"You said it with that energy to him?"
Yeah. And he goes, and I start talking to him about my film collection, and I start talking about and everything. So we walked the beach for 2 hours. Not even knowing we walked the beach for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because time literally stopped. There was nobody on the beach except for me and him.
Yeah.
Totally. So by the time we got back around, the crew started showing up, and me and him already had our interview, like our conversation. And so he took a small nap. The producer was like, "Hey, what happened, and I told them, I was like, I already had like a talk with him. We went on the beach. We had breakfast.
We made sandcastles.
And we did a whole bunch of shit. And he was like, you should see his face. It was priceless. And I was like, yeah, like sweet. And so that was
your
the
story.
Cool
you could just leave set right there.
Yeah,
You got your story.
and I pretty much did.
You could have topped that the rest of the shoot. I'm sure
It was great. It was great. And the producer, what was really funny is the producer was also the guy who was also doing the interview with him, and he wasn't asking questions like what I asked, and so Leonard Nimoy pulled him aside and said, maybe this kid should probably be the one that's interviewing him because he knows more about what you're talking about. He like straight up like put it right back into this guy's face, and he was like, oh, and so the producer was not happy with me throughout the entire rest of the day, and I was just like, yeah, like. I don't know what got him to screw up the original plan because I was supposed to be there at 8 a.m. and then like the time got pushed back.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I still don't. But that fuck up led me to talk to him.
Hang out with Leonard Nimoy.
And it was the greatest
thing.
thing.
You got to thank that producer.
I do. I thank him so much. And it was one of the greatest moments of my life.
That's a cool ass story.
Yeah, it was great. And then
Leonard Nimoy on Laserdisc.
Yeah, it was
selling
great.
Laserdisc.
It was great. And I think that Laserdisc, if I remember correctly, it's super rare. It's super hard to find. And it was just, and I think it was a combination of different things trying to promote Laserdisc, you know,
sure.
and it just happened to be on it. And,
awesome.
And so yeah, so anyway, yeah, so that happened, and then Stan Lee for 2 years I was behind the scenes with him, just doing photo op and everything, and that was really cool. And I would be the guy for him when he would come to Boston. So okay. I would do I did 2 Comic Cons with him, and so that was pretty cool. And I got to talk to him and everything, and that was just being in his presence and just having whatever conversation you can or were able to get pulled out of him at the time was very was pretty good. So that was pretty cool. And then I got to meet George Takei, and then I led in with him on how I met Leonard Nimoy and then what happened with William Shatner, and then he verified stuff with William Shatner. If
I can't do his accent, but he was something like, "Oh yeah, it's that guy sucks."
Yeah, he's just really shitty. But
what was Takei's thing? He was
he was super
like
humble.
That.
We talked for about an hour until I got pulled away to do the will. So at the time when I met him, we were at a Comic-Con. I was doing BTS behind the scenes stuff, and this was just it wasn't for Stan Lee, it was for something completely different.
Okay.
And so at the time he was there, they had all the Star Trek guys there. And they kept William Shatner on the opposite side of the building when all the rest of the Star Trek guys were on the other side of the building because no one wanted to talk to him, right? So I was telling all these camera guys like what happened about William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and come to find out, George Takei was standing right behind me. He overheard my conversation. That's how I met him. Okay. And I turned around and I was like, "Wow, holy shit!" And he was like, "I overheard your story. Do you have a few minutes?" And which turned into an hour, and that was cool. And then I got the call to do BTS for William Shatner, and I was like, "Fuck this!" And then they're like, "Well, you're gonna get paid. No one wants to do it. If you don't do it, no, you're not gonna get paid or anything for the rest of the day, and we'll double your pay if you go over and do the behind the scenes stuff for William Shatner." And I was like,
"So yeah, tell me about this. I want to see the details.
Okay.
I want to hear the details."
So
what did this guy do to you?
Two stories.
If Ben Affleck saying apologize to me and my phone, that was one.
This was one. This is William Shatner's story. Now, if William Shatner was standing here, or if he watches this, if he ever did, he will deny the fact.
I'll send it to him on Laserdisc.
He will. Yeah, he will deny the fact that this ever happened. But this did happen. So I was at this complex where we were rigging out different like little spots for celebrities to come in to do interviews.
Okay.
I had no idea who these celebrities were. I didn't know what was really happening. If this was going to be like some like event, some sort of comic event or some sort of Comic-Con, whatever. I got called in the last minute. A friend of mine had to go to the hospital. Something happened, so I get called in. Show up, and they're like, "You got to rig out lights, super fast. Do it." I went, "Okay, we're doing it." And so I went from lights to also doing AV stuff too. So, so we started, putting up, going into all these rooms, setting up curtains, setting up a whole variety of different things, and I'm setting up lights, right? We have the chairs in the middle and all these other things. And I'm going room to room to room. I was probably like the fourth room in at the time, and I'm rigging up something, and William Shatner shows up. And I turned around and I looked over at him, and it didn't dawn on me that it was William Shatner. Like it didn't click for a second.
Sure.
And he comes up to me, he goes, "Excuse me."
It was like, go.
And I go,
"Excuse me."
I go, "Hey, what? Holy fucking shit! Oh my God, it's William Shatner."
Did you say that out loud?
And no, I was thinking that, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And I go, "Yeah, hey, what's up? I'm rigging lights out right now." And he goes, "Could you get me a coffee?" And I go, I am doing grip work. I am not the PA or anything, but if there's anybody around, I will let them know to get you a coffee. I will make sure to get on that. However, it's not my responsibility. I told him straight up, it's not my responsibility.
Not what I'm working on.
It's not what I'm doing
right now.
But if I find somebody, I'll let you know. And I'm thinking to myself, doesn't he have like a producer? Doesn't he have like other crew members like around him to like?
It sounds
ask
like
him?
he ran them all off.
Yeah. And I didn't. He was the only one in the room at the time, and so I go. I already did my job. All the lights were already set up. They were going to start doing the interview, right? And I said, "Okay, cool. I will see if I can find you someone to get you a coffee. I'm sorry, but I'm on the run." I go to the next room. I'm probably 2 more rooms down, and all of a sudden this producer shows up.
Sure.
He comes in and he goes, "Hey, listen, I've been trying to hunt you down." I'm like, "Hunt me down? Like, what the fuck's going on?" He goes, "Are you the guy that William Shatner asked for you to make him coffee?" And I go, "Yeah, but I already found somebody to go do it. I'm guessing they didn't." And he goes, "You're responsible to make him coffee. William asked you to do it." And I go, so I call in, talking to my
fuck no,
and I call into the
go fuck yourself.
I call into my manager at the time, and I go, "Hey man, this is what's going on." He goes, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I go, "No man, this is what he wants." He's like, "Go get that asshole some coffee. Just do it." And I said, "All right." So I go over, I find the coffee machine, and now I don't drink coffee. I'm like allergic to coffee. It makes me violently sick.
Oh no.
So I don't know if I'm making his coffee good and all. I just made it black. So I make this coffee. I go running over.
You'd be a good coffee maker for me. I actually like coffee black.
And so I made it black. I didn't know how he wanted it or anything because there was nothing around. I was surprised he even found the coffee machine. So I find it, and I go running over, and I have it, and I go into the room, and he was just finishing his interview. And I go walking over. I'm like, hey, I'm the guy that you wanted me to make coffee. I tried to get somebody for you. Clearly that didn't happen. Your producer found me. I don't know how, but here you go. And he grabs the coffee and he starts drinking it. And he goes, "Wow, this is really good." And he takes the coffee and he throws it at my foot. And he goes, "I want you to make me another one." And that's when I turned around and I said, "Go fuck yourself." Right to his face. And I said, "Fuck you, William Shatner."
Yes.
And he goes, "You're going to make me another one." And I said, fuck am I going to do that? No, hell no. So me and him had this really long spiel of words, and I walked out of the room.
So you argue with him?
I argued. Oh yeah, I argued with William Shatner for like few minutes, and I was like, "Fuck you, dude." He threw it at my foot. That's disrespectful. 100%. So I called in on my manager, and I said, "Listen, I am fucking leaving. Screw this." And I was so heated at the time that I left. And about a couple hours later, I get a call from my manager, and he goes, "Hey, just to let you know, 19 people just walked off set because of William Shatner." And I was like, really? And he
Whoa.
goes, yeah.
Just a meat
like,
grinder
a
guy.
whole people just walked off because of that guy. And he's like, you're the first one to actually walk off. But I'm just letting you know, 19 other people walked off just behind you. And I went, really? And he's like, you're still getting paid and everything. But I just wanted to give you the heads up.
Listen,
and I said,
you're part of the crew.
Yeah. And I was like, wow.
This guy,
And I was
I've been in situations like that where it makes sense.
Wow. That's, so that happened. And then I meet Leonard Nimoy, and then years and years went by. This was probably 2012, coming close to 2000. Yeah, probably 2012. And that's when I meet George Takei, and then that's when I have to do
tell
William
the story
Shatner
about all that.
part 2. I gotta tell you.
What was a kind of an offshoot of?
So this is what happened. So
George Takei's version.
So I asked him this. I asked him.
Reassuring.
I asked him. I told him the story, and I said, "Listen, did William Shatner ever throw coffees at people's feet?" And he straight up said yes. He did. He would, like, if someone brought him a coffee, he would drink it, and then he would toss it at someone's foot and say, "Give him another one." So I got verified by Leonard Nimoy and George Takei, 2 people. And so that,
you know what I would do? I wouldn't actually do this, but take another coffee, make another coffee for him, but throw it at his face.
Yeah. Probably should, but if I ever meet the guy, I hope I don't. I'd never want to ever again. But so anyway, they backed it up, and I was like, all right, well, people will like to deny whatever they can, but anyway, I walk over, have to do another thing for William Shatner, and I'm taking all these photos. And there's this long line of people. They're all coming in, and he's sitting there signing away. He's signing away, and he's taking all the money.
This is George Takei?
No, this is William Shatner at this point. So I had to leave, go over to William Shatner's signing, and he's sitting there and he's signing everything. And he's taking all the money, and he has his briefcase, and he's throwing all the money into the briefcase. Right? And it's plain sight, everyone can see it, and he's just throwing the money into the briefcase. And
sounds like a happy guy.
Soon enough, this last person shows up. It was a father and his son.
Mm-hmm.
Son probably is like 10 years old, I think. Probably somewhere around there.
Okay.
And the gentleman shows up. He goes, "William Shatner, thank you. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being on Star Trek. I'm trying to get my son into Star Trek. He's enjoying it. I just want to say thank you for who you are and what you've been through." And he's
just
praising,
gushing out for him.
Praising William Shatner with all this praise, And what does William Shatner do? So we have 2 security guards, right?
Uh-huh.
These 2 guys are standing there, and this is what William Shatner says. And he looks at the father, and he looks at the kid, and he signs the item that he has. And he looks at the kid and he goes, "If I'm going to be your inspiration, you can go fuck yourself." To this 10-year-old kid.
Whoa.
And then he looks at the father and he goes, "That's not going to be $150. That's going to be $450. Or if you don't give me the money, I take your package."
Holy shit.
And that's what he did. And
holy shit.
And the father,
I got chills from that.
Father looks at him, and I thought he was going to punch him in the face. These 2 security guards were just blown away. And he was just like, oh my God. So the father took his son. They walked away. He never even grabbed the package, whatever he had, which I think it was like what was it, a toy or something? It was something, I don't know.
Some
it was
sort
a toy.
of promotional product that he doesn't care about.
And he took it, and he closed his briefcase, and he walked away. That was the second time. And then eventually...
Allegedly. I don't want to get sued by anybody.
So,
all of these stories are alleged happenings.
Alleged, yes, all these things. But
Ben Affleck and
William Shatner
allegedly told him to go fuck himself.
But ultimately, everything started. The people that were there, once seeing this, it started going around the con. People started hearing about it.
Yeah.
And
sorry, Blake, could you do that real quick? Don't worry, Comic-Con. That's
Comic-Con and
Comic-Con, the place full of comics and con artists.
Yeah, a lot of con artists.
But also known as sticker dealers.
So
I went to a Retro Mania collection place called up in Dripping Springs, and I feel like I got a lot of insight into how you walk into one of those places and it sort of just captures your imagination in a way where you don't care really how much you pay for anything. In a way, I was totally thrown up in that. Like I'm realizing in hindsight, I paid like $10 for a couple of stickers. They're like 30 cents a piece. Yeah. And it's because it was like my favorite characters. And it was surrounded by other things I like. So it was like, hell yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, I got to tell you, Comic-Cons, and I've worked PAX East. So as an AV guy, I've worked PAX East. I've worked many anime cons.
Yeah, doing video walls, projectors, the whole nine.
And, I mean, I got tons of stories about them too. And I got more stories about film sets and stuff. But so tonight's just gonna be a horror, theme. If you haven't gotten the gist of this, so if you're thinking about joining into the film world, you are going to have horror stories. So here's some horror stories for you guys. But
I know I got one on the last film I worked for sure.
Yeah, and I mean everybody has a horror story. I mean you it's not just a horror story, but you will burn bridges on film sets.
Yeah.
I mean you're gonna burn bridges. You're gonna hate people after a while. You're gonna you want to kind of try to kill somebody, but ultimately
nobody ever tries.
But except if you're Werner Herzog, who actually tried to supposedly get a hitman to kill one of his actors. But
who did that?
Werner Herzog.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's also.
He's a documentary guy.
He is, but he's also a filmmaker, and he's also crazy. And he supposedly tried to get I don't know how true it is, but supposedly he tried to send an assassin after one of his actors. I don't know how true that is, but that's always been a story.
Maybe he just needed another documentary idea.
Shit, man, he's crazy enough to pull something off, but
that's wild. I think I watched his Thin Blue Line. It was recommended to me because of the editing style,
dude.
And it was from a conversation of conducting an interview, and you have one angle. And how to get a semi-long interview looking good with one angle, and he achieves that. He's a great reference for learning how to do that.
He is,
and it's just punch in everything all day long.
Yeah, everything that man does. I mean, he's not a he is again. He's one of the great few left master directors. And I mean, for not just for documentary. I mean, for making actual like feature films.
Agreed.
And so. But anyway, but yeah. So for all the stuff that I've been through, and earlier I said I've been shot at on film sets. Yeah. I've actually been shot at on film sets, legit.
Well, real quick before we jump into that, I love all these stories. By the way,
I know
to me they scream clickbait. Like I feel like I could clip all these stories. Like Ben Affleck said what, and then you like. Like in a photo. Yeah. I think it'd be great. But I think we want to take a look at your movies here and talk about your collection history a little bit. Okay. So let's do that. Let me see those real quick.
So as you guys take a look at these, let me, to your audience here.
What's this one called?
So that right there is Heavy Trip, I believe.
Is that what it's? Oh, okay. So what's the language on that?
Okay, so this is a Finland film.
Okay, a Finland film.
Finland film. Okay, so
Finnish film.
Finnish film
with a reindeer with an upside down cross.
So so originally,
and it's a comedy film, which I could tell because like the dude with classic black metal makeup, he looks sad. And it kind of gives me a Metalocalypse vibe.
Oh, yes.
And then we have
it also gives you
Memories, which is an animation collection of short films, right?
Yes. That is an anime. It came out in 1995.
It looks really good.
With several famous directors.
It looks insanely
one of them,
good.
Unfortunately, is now gone, which is sad.
Should have hold these up here.
But
should have had these up the whole time, yeah.
I don't... If they can stand, it'd be pretty cool. And then
we got Al Adamson box set.
Yeah. Okay, so that right there that looks
is aesthetic,
this guy has a famous life in As They Fall.
That's okay.
Al Anderson, he's crazy. He was a huge influence during the 70s doing grindhouse films. He was the man that had no budget that still made movies.
Yeah.
And then his life came to a crashing halt when he himself became his own grindhouse type of realism, where he was actually murdered. And there's a lot of weird. So he
made all these
weirdness.
brutal movies, and then he eventually became a real life star.
A real life star out of his.
I gotta watch this documentary.
Yes, the documentary is called Blood and Flesh. It actually is an award-winning documentary on him. This box set right here is from Severin, and it's a fantastic box set. I mean, when I say I collect movies, 2013 is when I sold my first film collection. I actually turned down working for Bad Robot to save my father's life, and I sold my entire film collection to ultimately take care of my family.
Yeah.
And so
that's what matters, man.
Yeah. And so in 2013, I had
You're like Vin Diesel out here.
Family. It's always family, right? I mean, I should be a meme.
It is
family.
It is. If you've been paying attention, it 100% is.
And so, okay, so guys, so this is what I had. I had a 13,000 film collection. I had a film print of The Evil Dead. I had a 3/4 film print of The Evil Dead. And trying to find that is really fucking hard. I mean,
yeah.
I should have never found it. But by the grace of my friend Tom, who's now passed, I would have never found that, and I would have never gotten my signed posters by Star Wars cast and crew, and so I had a 5 original Star Wars signed poster collection. One of them was actually signed by George Lucas.
I wonder if people do that. I wonder if people get like a, Evil Dead poster, but they get somebody not in the movie to sign it.
If you do, you probably
William Shatner to sign it.
Really stupid because it's not going to be worth anything.
I think it would be fun to have.
It'd be really
thing.
Funny to do, but I don't know why you would do that.
It would just piss off the collectors community.
It would piss off probably a lot of people, and then you would scratch your head going, "Why wouldn't you do it?" But anyway,
because nobody else has it.
Yeah, but no one else has it.
It's not worth anything.
It's not worth anything, but hey, it's something. But I had around.
I got Star Wars signed by William Shatner.
Yeah,
that'd be funny.
That would be really funny. That would be fun. That would be funny. That would actually be really funny. Ultimately, I had the 5 posters. I had the film print. I had 13,000 film. I actually had a 10,000 vinyl collection. I had a 400 book collection, and I had around 5,000 games. My father got me the film poster and vinyl collection. I did the book and games myself.
Nice.
And I found the print, the film print myself. I had around 150 16 millimeter film print. And then when I sold everything in 2013, I made a little close of $1 million of everything. And so I used that money.
That's awesome.
I know it breaks my heart.
A millionaire.
You lucky guy.
But I sold everything, and I got my father the health care that he needed, the operation that he needed. I had to take care of my mom. I paid off her mortgage. I paid off half my father's mortgage.
Nice.
And I had to get her the treatment that she needed too. And then I tried to put some money in for myself, but I was stupid enough not to do so. How old were you when you had it? Oh, I'm 34 now. How old was I in 2013? How? I'm not good at math.
Like 27.
About 27.
27? About our age? Yeah.
All right.
Blake and I are about 27.
27? Okay. So, yeah, I'm really bad with math.
No, I'm 28.
He's 28.
You know what? I think I'm 35. I actually said that I was 35 the other day, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Wait a second.
Wait a minute. I'm 34. Shit. I'm considering myself older now, you know? But after I sold everything, I didn't have anything. So I had no more film collection.
You didn't have any keepsakes that you stuck?
I had 1,200 games left. Okay. And that was my RPG collection. And so in 2016, I sold my 1,200 games to take care of my mom.
Okay.
And in 2016, mid 2016, I saved a record store, and that got me 3,000 films out of that. And then from that point on, now I have around 7,000. Mainly, I don't have VHS Laserdiscs anymore, but I have out-of-print DVDs and Blu-rays. And so for all the films I have ever seen, I have just a mass amount of knowledge, film knowledge that I got.
Yeah.
And I remember every single film that I've ever seen. I can't remember names, unfortunately. It's just one
you
thing
just
about
remember
me.
the films
but I
you've
can remember
seen.
the films. I can remember directors. I can remember dates. Though I can't remember my own birthday, let alone my own name. But
the contradictions are coming out. It's getting to that point in the podcast where it's
I can remember everything else except for myself. Sometimes I wake up, I go, "What's my name?"
Wait a second.
Wait a minute. But
am I the protagonist of a horror movie today? A romance movie?
But okay. So getting it to this point.
Yeah.
So the goal for me with all the media that I have was always to try to do a podcast or a YouTube show where I would bring this media with other people and actually talk about it and actually try to bring something more, just not just another regular, hey, here's a review section, but more in depth on why these things were made.
Sure.
And so last year in 2020, before COVID ever hit, I was in development for creating my film educational program, and it was called Critical Film. But the idea about it was to create a masterclass program, not just for one university, for multiple different universities, and potentially, community colleges or even high school, right?
Yeah.
And so the goal
you wanted to take your collection, your film experience in watching film and collecting film, and just kind of gaining knowledge through that, and you wanted to share that.
I did.
I think that's a really selfless act.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome of you to think about other people in all of your knowledge and say, I want to share this.
Yeah, and that's really what I wanted to do, and the goal about the film program was to bring in theory, to bring in all the stuff about older film, period piece. It's for older films, and the show was designed into a 5-section type thing,
right?
Where
and then it was just designed from the ground up to educate people in this, in a really specific way.
Yeah,
to your liking, and hopefully people would, students would jump into it and gain something from it, right?
I was hoping for it, yeah. And so when COVID hit, I lost all my investors. I lost everything, and it sucked. And so now I'm trying to game plan it for 2022. And the idea was, it wasn't just about students; it was also for everybody that wanted to come in.
Yeah,
like you guys, for you, you could.
Can I be invited to it too?
Yeah. Everybody.
Course,
it was
you
for everybody.
Have to promise.
Yeah.
He
has a class that he's working on. making.
Yeah, and so
do you want to be part of it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. Well, great. This is great because
I want attention too.
I love creating films. I love film classes because your homework is just watching stuff. What do you think?
And it's not just that. You actually get to so this is how it breaks down. So there's several different parts of this. The first 3 parts are doing documentary, product placement, and review. Okay. Yeah. So what would happen is we would take a film like one of these, and we would the students would have to build a small documentary on that film. They would have to rip all the media, anything about that film, whatever was already presented or whatever. They would rip it all, and they would make a small little documentary on that. And then they would do the product placement. So they would take the media, or they would have to go on to eBay or whatever and try to find the old media of Laserdisc, VHS, posters, playbills, anything, bring it into the studio, and they would have to pitch, what all this media is worth. Why is it important? And then the third aspect would be the review section. So let's say if we take Memories, for instance. Memories came out in 1995. So it's the 90s.
That's one of the Al Edmondson.
So these are 70s. Okay, you know
Memories,
what?
Okay.
So you know what? This is a perfect example. Let's just do Al Emerson's stuff. 70s, right? We pick any film in the 70s. the review section, the students would have to design a Siskel and Ebert. Okay. Mm-hmm. They would have to build a set dedicated to the 1970s. The actors would have to look 1970s, and whatever film that we were doing, the students would have to, of course, shoot it just like how Siskel and Ebert would be shot. Okay. And the actors would have to use their film knowledge to talk about the film, but they couldn't go after the film date when the movie. Let's say. I don't know, the Bloodly Ghastly Horror, for whatever reason, came out in 1978, let's just say. They couldn't go after 1978. They would have to use the prior film knowledge before 1978.
So it would create an incentive to watch a ridiculous amount of films.
And you would have to learn your film knowledge.
So as far as funding, I feel like you could just rent out an entire office building and have most of those rooms be watching rooms.
Yeah. And what's cool is,
and just put a big ass TV in there, some surround sound, maybe some wireless headphones,
and they would have to do film history, and then this is what would happen, and this is where the fun actually happens. After they do their three setup, the fourth stage is they would take a scene out of that film. Mm-hmm. And then they would have to recreate it. And what would happen is that I think that it would break into 4 separate groups. So A and B would take two scenes out of that film. Then they would have to recreate it. Mm-hmm. C and D would have to do the behind the scenes on A and B. And so now they're learning not just how to shoot, a documentary style, but they're also recreating scenes from that film. And then they would have to bring it back in the studio, edit everything, and then they would have to look and compare both scenes of how they did it. And once A and B is done, then it would flip. So C and D would be able to go in, take 2 more scenes out of that film and recreate that.
Cool.
And then at the very end is where they would actually make a short or a feature film.
Sounds very expensive.
It's very expensive.
So what I'm thinking in my mind is you need costumes, you need set builders,
a lot of things. But
you need a small city.
But here's the thing: if you guys, if the sets were already pre-built, they would just use the same sets, right, over and over again. And then for everything, to go. So, I mean, when I had my investors, I had $500,000 already set aside. I pitched it to UT, and they were like, you know what, we could probably potentially get this off the ground. My investors came back and said, you know what, if you're planning on not just going to one university, to bring it to all different universities and all different types of schools, maybe this could be a great opportunity. And I was kind of already thinking this, where the students would be able to now do competitions and start doing film festivals. Yeah. And I went from $500,000 to $2 million. And the investors were like, hey, here's $2 million. I saw the number. I saw the zeros. I've never seen so many zeros in my life. And then COVID hit. And then I lost everything. And then when COVID hit, you got the best COVID story. 2 of the investors caught COVID and actually passed away because of it. Oof. And so when I say to everybody, COVID is a very serious thing, I believe in it because it happened. Yeah. And it impacted the worst me, part, and it impacted everybody. And it was devastating. And so, my goal is that I want to come back to do this. And on top of that, I started thinking, what would be really cool is having new blood in the game, where if the program got off the ground, we would make a Discord channel where we would start bringing in people from all around the world to start communicating. And then I thought, why don't we just build a fucking film app where everybody would be able to have a film app that actually works? So I was thinking the students would also develop a film app for the film industry. And not just that, they get something out of it. They get work. They get everybody, and it's not just the students. I mean, just everybody in the film world gets involved. On top of that, not only do we build something, projects might actually come out of this, and one of them is called Stories from the Typewriter, which is an anthology show that I want to try to do. And if this works out, I mean, it would be a period piece, but it would be very interesting. And the goal about that was to always have it so that I would bring it right back to the scriptwriters. And if I brought it right back to the scriptwriters, awesome. It would be new blood, and it would be for everybody. And that's what I want to do. I want to give this an opportunity for everybody. That's what I want.
It's called Critical Film.
It's called Critical Film.
Master class for everybody. And you heard it here first, folks. Carlo Barbieri III.
Thank you. CB3.
He wants to be a teacher. He wants nothing more than to teach students about film studies, about awesome things like this. All three of these things right here I've never heard of, and I love that because it's new films I get to watch. I get the opportunity because I know somebody who knows about this type of stuff. So film study has never not been amazing. In my world, and I went to film. I took film classes in college, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah,
because you learn so much about history. You learn pretty much every major by watching film, especially in an academic situation.
And you know, and the thing is that like, and I think you guys.
Yeah.
8:38.
Oh, we about ready to get off?
We're ready to get out. Oh
okay.
Boy. Okay. Well. I've been talking for so long.
It's okay. Blake is our hammer for time.
And I haven't had a chance to talk once.
You have not. I've been talking so much. I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries. You're our guest here. But Blake, do you have anything else to add?
Hit me with something. Hit me with something.
Been wanting to say it the whole podcast, but you were very lucky to be with Johnny Depp. So will you please introduce me to him, please?
I will. You know what? If I can meet him again, I will. I will try to do whatever I can. Actually, you know, and the funny thing is that, and this is actually going to be, if it works, I don't know if this would work, but the idea about the film program was to always bring in professional people and even actors themselves. So if it actually got off the ground and people really believed in it, and I mean, my investors did, I think it would be awesome to have actors and other filmmakers from all around the world to actually like not just be guest speakers, but to even like teach a course. I mean, that would be awesome. I mean, we already have a master class, but the thing is that that's something that's already been pre-shot. But I want to bring this into the classroom. I want to bring this for everybody, and I mean that would be cool. That would be cool. I mean,
you could be a guest for a class, Blake.
Yeah. Yes, I would love the attention I can get.
It'd be great. I think
Blake wants to be an actor.
You know what? I tell everybody this: if there's something that you truly love out of this, 100% go for it. I mean, just do it. Just do it. There's nothing stopping you. The only thing that's stopping you is you. That's it. You know? I mean, we all have...
Actually, you're dressed like that guy, too, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, you know, and you know what? Is this what he always did? Just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
I think that's a good way to end the podcast.
And
filmmaking, film education, anything you want to dip your feet into, watching old obscure films, finding obscure films, building a collection.
And
just do it.
Just do it, guys. Just do it.
There you go, Blake.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. All right. Hire us, Nike. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Hire us.